Bungie is cooked. This is like watching a train wreck in slow motion. If you guys do not delay this game, you know what? Don't. It makes for far better content. It's a heck of a lot more entertaining than Marathon, I'll tell you that right now. They just got caught red-handed, lifting art from some random artist on Twitter and just throwing it into Marathon. The funny thing is, this isn't even the first time that these guys have gotten caught doing something like this before. It's so lazy. It's so scummy. It's so blatant. And it shows how little creativity the studio has left and how hard and fast they're trying to rush Marathon out the gate. I played Marathon, and I can say with absolute confidence, it's not going to work. It doesn't stand a chance. They don't understand the audience. They don't understand the game. They don't understand the genre. And it's so woefully uninspired that it makes a lot of sense as to why they're just copying things that other people are doing. And in some cases, copying their art, I guess, as well. You compare this to a game like Arc Raiders, and the contrast between the two of them couldn't be any more clear. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the allegations against Bungie and their artwork, and also the pitiful reception of Marathon. They are not going to beat the Concord allegations. Bungie seems to have a very close relationship with plagiarism, at least over the last few years. One of the first instances we saw of this was actually back in 2021 for the Witch Queen expansion of Destiny 2, where Twitter user Relay314's fan art of Xivu Arath was used one-for-one in-game without permission or notification. Then, in the Lightfall expansion, it happened again. Julian Falona's artwork was lifted and used inside of a cutscene. And again in 2024, when Bungie collaborated with Hasbro to make a Nerf replica of the Ace of Spades pistol from Destiny 2, this time lifting the entire design from the artist Tofu Rabbit, aside from a recolor and some minor cosmetic changes. In every one of these cases, Bungie pointed the blame to a third-party contractor that they had outsourced their work to, resolved the issues quietly, and then compensated the artists. Actually, as we speak, Bungie is in the middle of an active lawsuit with writer Kelsey Martineau, who alleges that Destiny 2's Red War campaign in 2017 and the Curse of Osiris expansion copied elements from his sci-fi story published on WordPress between 2013 and 2014. He's claimed similarities in the name of the Red Legion, the antagonist's motivations, and several narrative elements like a celestial entity, the use of flamethrowers, and a consciousness transfer. Bungie filed a motion to dismiss the case, but the judge ended up rejecting it, citing insufficient evidence due to Bungie's inability to provide a playable version of the allegedly plagiarized content. And that's all because the Red War and Curse of Osiris expansions don't exist anymore. They're part of content that Bungie had vaulted and removed from the game, then deleted all of the files altogether for reasons that can never fully be explained. This was the same move that alienated a huge portion of their player base. Bungie removed content from the game that players had paid for, claiming that they needed to do it to get more memory space for future expansions. And I'll be honest with you guys, as a player who owned that content, there is nothing more satisfying than watching this come back to bite them in the ass. And now here we are in 2025, and Bungie has still not learned their lesson. Twitter user and artist N2, also known as Anti-Real or @Anti-Real in lead speak, has called them out once again, this time for lifting their artwork and using it without permission in Marathon's alpha. These accusations aren't vague. They were direct, specific, and backed up with visual evidence. On Twitter, they shared images and wrote, "The Marathon Alpha released recently and its environments are covered with assets lifted from poster designs I made in 2017. Bungie is of course not obligated to hire me when making a game that draws overwhelmingly from the same design language I have refined for the last decade. But clearly my work is good enough to pillage for ideas and plaster all over their game without any pay or attribution. I don't have the resources nor the energy to spare to pursue this legally, but I have lost count of how many times a major company has deemed it easier to pay a designer to imitate or steal my work rather than to write me an email. In 10 years, I've never made a consistent income from my work, and I'm tired of designers from huge companies mood boarding and parasiting my designs while I struggle to make a living." Another Twitter user pointed out that Joseph Cross, the art director at Bungie, follows Anti-Real on Twitter and asked if there might be a connection. The artist had responded saying, "He's followed me for a few years and a few others from Bungie, never heard any communication." Just to add insult to injury, mainstream media outlets began circulating fake quotes from the artist, attempting to sensationalize the story further by fabricating statements like, "I'm completely floored. This is my full-time job. I sell these posters online. They're not obscure. A major company has deemed it easier to pay a designer to imitate or trace than license or commission the work." This didn't come from the artist, and using fake quotes to farm clicks on top of an artist that's already being exploited is a special kind of vile. Now, if things weren't sketchy already, just 2 weeks ago, before these allegations went public, Joseph Cross, the art director for Bungie, posted on Twitter about how excited they were to work with Krupa Hosk, a brand and design agency that Bungie had brought on to help with visual development, identity, custom typography, and ARG campaigns for Marathon. This almost feels like a preemptive PR buffer, as if they know that these accusations might start to surface and they were preparing to have a scapegoat just in case. But let's be real here. These third-party agencies are just a shield. Bungie uses them because they know most gamers are never going to remember their names. The public backlash will hit Bungie, but the legal and creative blame will just get pushed onto somebody else. Bungie writes the checks when they get caught, and the key word there is when, because these are only the cases that made it to public attention. How many other ones never got noticed? I mean, this has been going on for over 5 years now, and I have a really hard time believing that Bungie somehow, some way keeps managing to coincidentally hire art thieves over and over again. The common denominator here in every single one of these situations isn't the freelancers or third-party vendors, it's Bungie. So why does this keep happening? Why do they keep doing this? Well, that's because they just don't have the time or the talent anymore. Bungie has laid off aggressively in recent years. A lot of the talent that they let go were key contributors to games like Halo, Destiny, and Destiny 2. And with Destiny 2 in decline and pressure from Sony mounting ever since they acquired Bungie in 2022, they simply do not have the same creative force behind their projects anymore. They are rushing Marathon and other content out the door to meet deadlines and deliver returns. And when time runs out and creativity is thin, people take shortcuts. And honestly, that makes a lot of sense because Marathon feels like a game that's being shoved out the door, ready or not. Bungie has done almost nothing to engage with their audience before the release of the closed alpha, and then their entire rollout of the game has been messy. The initial teaser had some intrigue in the cinematic trailer. People like the ARG elements and the visual direction, but the gameplay trailer absolutely tanked. As the time of this writing, it has 24,000 dislikes. Most of the comments are flaming the game. They've also delivered nothing but mixed messaging. They told Destiny 2 PvE players that Marathon isn't for them, despite the fact that it's their loyalty, time, and spending that funded Bungie's projects in the first place. Instead of honoring their core audience, they are chasing a new one they don't even understand, in a genre that they've never even developed in before. It's yet another case of a studio abandoning what made them successful in favor of mimicking what's trendy. And honestly, what else would a mimic do other than copy everything else around it? We are going to see a lot more of this. A lot more. All these companies that have been complaining about rising development costs, all these layoffs that we've seen, that is all pressure that is being laid on top of these designers and artists. And the more that they have them making these cookie cutter games and these copy paste projects, the less time and resources and experience they have to be able to make anything, the less creative freedom they have, well, the more likely they are to start cutting corners. And part of that is because they're just trying to save time more than anything else. But the other part of it is they just don't care. That's why you see stuff like this. We see this with workers that are just phoning it in for a paycheck because they feel like they're forced to do the work, because they feel wholly uninspired by it, because they're not being led properly. And as a result, you get something that is uninspired, and you get something that most of the times ends up being plagiarized. Journalism is going through the same thing. Games journalism specifically is going through the same thing. After the Polygon video, I actually had some writers reach out to me and they said, you have no idea how bad it is for us right now. All of these companies have basically made it where, we have $20 an article. You have to put out 50 articles a week. You can only talk about very specific games, only the biggest games, and you can only write about it in a very specific way. And that's the reason why we get a lot of the writing that we do. And I think that's a fitting description for what Marathon is, because they're under those exact same pressures in that exact same situation right now where they're being forced to make a game that I don't think that they actually want to make. Sure, there's probably a few people that are there that are all about it, but it's not an entirely team effort, I don't think. And people don't realize, I don't think they're taking it seriously, that if Bungie does not deliver with Marathon, they are done. This is it. This is the only thing they have left for them, because Sony has invested too much money in them for too little return, and they are desperate for a live service hit. And if Bungie's not the one to give it to them, that's not going to work out for them. They have wasted billions of dollars at this point trying to get their own live service hit. And I played Marathon. It's not it. With better competition that's out on the market, with better competition that's right around the corner that delivered an alpha at the same time as yours, it's just not going to work out. This is going to be a last-ditch effort, a Hail Mary with nobody there to catch it. Now, in a lot of cases, when I'm feeling off about a game, whether it's from the previews or the early footage, I tend to second guess myself. Maybe I'm being overly critical. Maybe it's not as bad as it looks. Maybe I just need to get hands-on with it to see the full picture. Then I played Marathon and Arc Raiders back-to-back. And now I was being way too generous with Marathon. Let me just go ahead and throw a flag on the play right now and say it outright. Marathon is one step removed from Concord. The only thing that this game has going for it is the Marathon name in a mildly interesting universe. Beyond that, this is one of the most blatant, uninspired, trend-chasing corporate pasteboard games that I have ever touched. I would go as far to say that Dragon Age the Veilguard had more flavor than Marathon. This is factory-sealed boredom. There is nothing in this game that stands out. Not one mechanic, not one system, not one moment where I sat back and thought to myself, damn, this is what makes Marathon special. They took the basic template of an extraction shooter, filled it with loot that you don't even care about, slapped on some faction rep grinds for the illusion of depth, jammed in some Apex Legends hero abilities, copied on Destiny 2's gunplay, and dropped it all into a flat, lifeless world where everything looks the same. And when I say everything looks the same, I mean literally. The environments are so homogenous and color drained that I found myself disoriented all the time. Not because it was clever map design, but because it all just blurs together. I wish I actually had more to tell you guys about the gameplay loop, but I was mentally checked out within 10 minutes of firing this game up. The matches felt empty. The tutorial was like an afterthought. There was no pressure, no tension, no reason to care. It's the kind of game that you forget the moment that you close it, if you even make it that far. And I am not the only one that feels this way. A former Bungie designer, Vince, who now goes by Fractal Grove on YouTube, specifically called out Bungie's art direction. He pointed out to the overuse of cool colors, especially blue tints, and explained how it creates a psychological sense of fatigue. It drains players. Compare that to something like Ultra Kill, which uses aggressive reds, oranges, and yellows to generate adrenaline, danger, and excitement. That's color theory 101. This is basic art philosophy. And Bungie, a studio that once helped define visual spectacle for shooters, seems to have just forgotten it. But honestly, what really killed Marathon for me was just general whiplash. It's the same thing that I felt going from Baldur's Gate 3 to Starfield, from Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 to Avowed. It's that sense of expectation crash, that realization that you're playing something with no soul after coming from something that was brimming with it. Because just before I got into Marathon, I played Arc Raiders, and that game gets it. The moment you step into the world, it commands your attention. It is so breathtakingly beautiful. The lighting, the detail, the sound design, it all works here. You feel like an explorer that is cautiously surfacing to this hostile world. The sound alone becomes a mechanic. You crouch, listen, stop. You can hear these arc machines before you even see them, and you're avoiding fights because you don't want to blow your cover. That tension is constantly building with every single item that you collect. You're calculating your risk. Should I push for more loot? Should I break for extraction? One wrong move, a metal detector, a flock of birds, and your position is blown. You jump, you panic, you play it smart because the game is pushing you to. And Arc Raiders actually understands the audience that it's going for. It's an extraction shooter for the mid-core crowd, and it nails that balance. You have a pet rooster that goes out and brings back materials. You can dismantle in the field so you can make room for more loot. And yes, unlike Marathon, Arc Raiders actually has proximity chat. Embark doesn't think that they need to insulate their players from one another for safety reasons. It's like I said before, and I'm going to say it again, if you do not include proximity chat in a game about tension and human interaction, you do not understand the genre that you're making. And you know what proves that? My experience with it. I went into a match under-equipped. I didn't have any ammo with me. I got into a firefight, used all the rounds that were in my gun, and I bluffed my way out of it by role-playing as a grizzly man with a southern tone for some reason. I have the meds and the rounds to do this all day. Walk away and I'll let you off. And for whatever reason, the other player believed me and they let me walk away. Funny enough, I bumped into somebody else at the extraction point and I just told them the truth straight out. I have no ammo. I'm just trying to get my quest done. They let me extract and we ended up joining up to play the next round together. That's what these games are about. That's why people play them. Emergent storytelling, player agency, memorable moments. Now compare that to Marathon, a game where you're completely isolated in a world that's designed to be antisocial. It's ironic. Bungie helped define cooperative multiplayer in the modern era. They're the ones that pretty much gave us LAN parties for the most part with the Halo days. And now they're making a game that actively suppresses that connection. That speaks volumes. And it's because Marathon isn't a product of inspiration or iteration. It's a live service mold that's filled with monetization systems. It exists to chase trends. It exists to tick boxes. It exists to sell, not be played. And that's the key difference between Bungie and Embark Studios right now. Yes, Arc Raiders and the finals are live service games, but they feel like games first. Even the finals brought something fresh. It wasn't Overwatch. It wasn't another Call of Duty clone. People may have moved on from the game. It's definitely not topping the Steam charts, but you would be hard-pressed to find players that hated it. It earned respect. Marathon won't earn a thing. Bungie is doing what so many studios are doing right now, iterating on monetization, not on gameplay. They're not refining systems, they're refining a storefront. They don't care if the experience is good. They care if you keep grinding, spending, and logging in. And I swear, I'm going to start making a new catchphrase after this one. When you forget about the players, they forget about you. And they already have. Both Marathon and Arc Raiders had their limited closed access tests at the exact same time. Bungie could not keep players in the game. Meanwhile, Arc Raiders was overflowing with demand. Marathon bled players daily. Arc Raiders had players begging for more. They're still begging for more. The vibe shift in the gaming community is loud and clear. Nobody is interested in Marathon. That conversation is over. And that is not a good sign for Bungie, especially when you consider how niche this genre already is. Extraction shooters, by design, are not built for mass appeal. They are punishing high stakes and time insensitive games, not for casual audiences who do not have a lot of time already and just want to have fun. Yet here we are watching major studios throw their entire futures into this space, convinced that they have found the next big live service cash cow. This is not just disconnected, it is completely delusional. What we are seeing right now is the result of panic. We have publishers that are scrambling to try to predict whatever the next trend is, trying to stake their claim before the gold rush ends, but instead of innovating or understanding what these genres and trends are, they're just pouring money into these things and making these watered down versions of games that only ever had niche appeal to begin with. And I think this is where Embark Studios really stands out, because I genuinely do think that Arc Raiders has a bright future. Not just because the game is fun, but because the team behind it is clearly smarter with their budget and more grounded in their expectations. The finals reportedly cost less than $100 million for them to make, and there is no way that Arc Raiders blew past that number by much. It's lean, it's focused, and it's built for players who are actually going to play it. But even still, I don't see the appeal here for the big publishers. This is a genre that has a ceiling. Most casual players are not going to be signing up to get dunked on in a high-stakes PvEVP gauntlet. They do not want to spend hours grinding materials, building up gear, planning for some big PvE encounter, only to get one shot across the map by some third-party sniper while you're fighting a boss. Some players thrive on that risk. Some people really love that tension. Most people don't. They want to log in, have fun, make progress, and log out. Extraction shooters do not respect that kind of time investment. They never have. I mean, just look at Escape from Tarkov. That game essentially birthed this genre. It's considered a success and a gold standard for it, but it peaks at around 100,000 players a day. That's impressive for a hardcore niche title, but it's not the foundation you want to build a $300 million live service behemoth on. These studios think that they can expand their audience by softening the edges of these games and making the experience a bit more casual, but by doing so, they're missing the point, because the very things that make these games compelling, the risk, the tension, the player-driven stories, don't translate well when you strip them down for mass appeal. You're not left with a broader audience. You're going to be left with no audience at all. And I think that's the real tragedy for Marathon. Not that it's just a bad game, but it's a bad game born out of desperation. It's corporate wishful thinking in playable form. A studio chasing a trend it doesn't even understand in a genre that was never built to carry that much weight. It's not the next big thing, and it never will be. They need to stop trying to make the next big thing, and they need to go back to making the thing that they think is cool. That's how this all started. That's where all of this came from. That is the reason why Bungie left Microsoft and Xbox to begin with. They wanted to reach beyond Halo. They wanted to do something different. They did that with Destiny. Then they shackled themselves to it. Now they shackled themselves to just live service games altogether. I do not feel like they care about what they're making, nor do they have the talent or the leadership to even be able to try to achieve it. I mean, the essence of this game is literally just a ripoff of a bunch of other games. They're not doing anything to iterate on it whatsoever. And on top of that, you're now stealing art from indie artists as well, or allegedly stealing art from indie artists as well. Gotta save myself on that one. But at this point, I mean, just pay somebody else to make it. It's clear that you guys don't want to. I just don't see a world where this game succeeds. Not unless they push it back another 2 years and then approach it like it's Destiny 3. I know that sounds crazy, but these guys should be working off of their strengths. They should be making a game for the audience that they already do have, because you're going to get much higher buy-in from your players and also from other players as well. You should be working off of your strengths, your current customer base, and not this imaginary audience that you guys think you can go after, especially when you're charging a premium price. I'm sitting here and I'm like, how is nobody made a true competitor to Borderlands or The Division? It's like those two games just exist out in the ether, and there's been a couple of ones, but they've been like really knockoff kind of titles. If one of these companies actually put their foot down and made something like those games, it could do well. The only games that I know of, at least for live service games, is Once Human, which I think is a really cool concept. They have a lot of really cool stuff with that game. The game's really fun to play, but still has a little ways to go. They got some stuff they need to work on with that. But outside of that, the First Descendant, I mean, at the Q&A for the First Descendant, the most important question that was asked was why why one of the female characters' toenails aren't painted. We're so cooked. Good God, man. Gooners can't keep it together. Anyway, tell me what you guys think about all of this. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a comment down below, share it with your friends, share it on social media, subscribe to the channel, like the video, come follow me on Twitch, come follow me on Twitter, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe. Catch you in the next one. Peace.
Family, 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 family.